Every day when we wake up from a dream and open our eyes, a new day begins. But let's pause for a second and think about it. Is that dream really over? Or are we just shifting from one layer of illusion to another? When you step out onto the street, feel the breeze on your skin and look at the faces of strangers passing by. Is all of that real life? Or just a picture painted by some system way more complex than we can imagine? There's this video game called Grand Theft Auto. It's like a super realistic simulation of the real world. Players can control a character to interact with this virtual world, from speeding down highways to diving into all sorts of dramatic adventures. Depending on how you play, the story branches out into different endings, just like real life. With advances in science and tech, the realism in this game keeps getting better, from simple 2D versions to open-world 3D that's so vivid. You can almost hear the wind howling and smell the exhaust fumes. And this raises a deep question. If one day human tech gets advanced enough, could we simulate a world exactly like the real one? And if the answer is yes, how can we be sure the world we're seeing right now is actually real, and not just some finely tuned program? Elon Musk, best known as the CEO of SpaceX, the space exploration tech giant, and Tesla, thinks it's almost certain we're living in a simulation. He compares it to how video games have evolved, like a way more modern and smarter version of Pong from about 40 years ago, just 2 rectangles and a dot. 40 years later, we've got simulation games with hyper-realistic 3D graphics, millions of players online at once, and it's still improving. Elon Musk says that at some point, we'll have a hard time telling the difference between games and real life. If you assume civilization lasts long enough, games will become indistinguishable from reality. He believes we're almost definitely living in a matrix. This topic is still being debated all over the world, and some scientists are even running experiments to try and figure it out. In 2025, with the latest breakthroughs in physics and tech, this hypothesis is getting more attention than ever. For example, researchers like Roman Yampolsky have published papers exploring how to escape the simulation, treating it like a cybersecurity problem. Back in 1974, a group of scientists discovered a weird phenomenon through an experiment. At the time, everyone thought there must be some mistake. But over 50 years later, as of 2025, no one has figured out what's wrong with that experiment, unless this whole world is virtual. Today, we're going to use science to prove some unexplained mysteries in the world, and it's very possible we're actually living in a virtual world like a dream. We'll dive into everything from classic experiments to recent real-life stories, including the mysterious death of a tech CEO, and update you on the latest findings from 2025 about the simulation hypothesis. Welcome to today's podcast, The Matrix Reality. Are we living in a simulation? We'll go deep into the history of this idea, starting from ancient philosophical thoughts to modern scientific arguments, and explore how tech like Neuralink is blurring the lines between real and virtual. And at the end, we'll tackle an intriguing question. Is there a way to escape the Matrix? Based on the latest theories and research, we'll look at some creative and sometimes crazy ideas to wake up from this virtual world. Let's start with hypnosis, a field that shows how easily human consciousness can be manipulated, and it might be key to understanding the holographic nature of the universe. In 1991, writer Michael Talbot published a book called The Holographic Universe, a classic that explores how reality might be a giant hologram, where every part contains info about the whole. In the book, he mentions that in 1970, he personally witnessed an unbelievable hypnosis experiment. That day, the hypnotist stood on stage and asked the audience, "Anyone volunteer to be hypnotized?" Only Tom, a friend of Talbot's, raised his hand. Right after, the expert invited Tom and his daughter Laura up to join the hypnosis session. After putting Tom into a hypnotic state, the expert told him, "When you wake up, you won't be able to see Laura at all." Then, the expert had Laura stand right in front of Tom and woke him up. When Tom woke, he looked around but couldn't see Laura. He couldn't even hear her laughter. At the same time, the expert pulled out a pocket watch from his pocket, quickly held it behind Laura's back and asked Tom, "What am I holding in my hand?" And then the weird part happened. Tom casually answered, "A pocket watch." The hypnotist asked next, "Can you see the engraving on the watch?" Tom squinted and read out the inscription on the watch right away. This blew the book's author's mind at the time. You gotta know that this hypnosis experiment didn't just prove how easy it is to control human consciousness. The results totally went against physics principles. Because normally, human eyes can't see through objects to spot something behind them. In the book, Talbot explains in detail that this experiment was done by 2 grad students from a university, and it was part of general hypnosis research. He connects it to the holographic theory of David Bohm and Carl Pribram, where the brain stores memories like a hologram, and hypnosis can access hidden layers of info. This quickly shifted to physics research. Some scientists started thinking, what if our world isn't really real? They figured it's possible everything in this world is programmed. Laura, Tom's daughter, might just be a piece of code. When the command is entered, your vision naturally sees through her to the watch. Sure enough, the scholars who suggested this back then got laughed at by mainstream science. It wasn't until the 21st century, when more and more virtual world video games hit the market, that more scientists started paying attention to whether our world really exists. Even in 2025, new studies on hypnosis in medicine, like treating eating disorders, remind us of this experiment, showing consciousness can be altered to reprogram how we perceive reality. To illustrate more, think about other hypnosis cases in history. For example, in Charles Tart's studies on mutual hypnosis, where 2 people hypnotize each other, they reported experiencing alternate realities, where their bodies changed or disappeared, just like in Talbot's experiment. This suggests consciousness isn't just a brain product, but part of a bigger info field, holographic. In the simulation context, hypnosis could be a way to hack the Matrix's code, changing how we perceive the world. Actually, some theories say hypnosis could be the first step to escaping the simulation by accessing deeper reality layers, but we'll talk more about that in the later section. When people talk about this world being virtual, a lot of you might think, no way, this world feels so real. But did you know we humans rely on our senses to decide if the world is real, and senses are super unreliable? Here, let's do some small experiments to prove it. Try looking at an optical illusion image, like a spinning wheel, description, a picture that looks like it's moving non-stop. Do you feel like it's moving? But amazingly, if we focus on one spot, it stops right away. Then when we look at the whole thing, it starts moving again. Next, look at another image, like the lilac chaser illusion, description, image with glowing balls. When you stare at the cross in the middle and hold still, you'll see the small glowing balls moving around are green. But when you follow those glowing balls, the green ones suddenly turn purple. Isn't that magical? These illusions aren't just fun, they prove our brains are rendering reality, similar to how computers generate game images. Another example is the Rubin vase illusion, where you might see a vase or 2 faces, depending on how your brain interprets it. Showing reality is subjective. And here's the big reveal. In 1974, a famous group of scientists, Pier Giorgio Merli, Gianfranco Misiroli, and Giulio Pozzi, while studying the nature of light, accidentally found evidence for a virtual world. The results shouldn't have existed. That year, the professors did a double-slit experiment with electrons, a modern take on Thomas Young's 1801 experiment with light. They assumed electrons would go in straight lines when shot from the machine. Normally, the particles would pass through two slits and hit the screen in two lines like the slits. But amazingly, the experiment showed multiple lines on the screen that shouldn't be there, an interference pattern showing electrons behaving like waves. This stunned the professors. How is that possible? So, they decided to add a measuring device during the experiment to observe up close what happens when the particles go through the slits. But they couldn't imagine that this simple idea not only didn't solve the original puzzle, but revealed a huge mystery. In this experiment with the exact same setup, the multiple lines on the screen suddenly turned into two straight lines, just like expected. But clearly before adding the detector there were multiple lines, and no matter how many times they tried, as long as the detector was there, the results always became two reasonable straight lines, as if the electrons knew someone was watching, so they had to behave normally. This experiment outcome matches perfectly with how video games work, as mentioned earlier. Even the world we see might only appear when we look at it. In the simulation context, the double-slit experiment is seen as strong evidence. Reality only renders when observed, like in games to save resources. Physicist Richard Feynman once called this the central mystery of quantum mechanics, and by 2025, new experiments like the temporal double-slit have extended this idea to time, showing waves can interfere through time slits, suggesting time might also be part of the simulation code. To dive deeper, let's explore the history of the double-slit experiment. Thomas Young first proved light as a wave in 1801 by shooting light through two slits and observing the interference pattern. Then, with electrons in 1927 by Davison and Germer, and later experiments with larger molecules, even atoms, all showed wave-particle duality. In the simulation hypothesis, this could be how the system saves computation. No need to simulate every particle all the time, only when measured. Some scientists like Melvin Vopson propose experiments using information entropy to prove we're in a simulation, and by 2025, these studies are still ongoing, with new proposals to use AI to analyze quantum data for glitches in the matrix. Now let's shift to real-life stories that make this hypothesis downright creepy. First off, there are countless reports of glitches in the matrix, moments where reality seems to bug out. From social media X, there are thousands of personal stories. For example, one user told about a trip to Bangkok in 2003. After helping push a tuk-tuk for the driver, he got lost and couldn't remember his hotel. But suddenly the same driver showed up on Kheosan Road, miles away, and took him back. An inexplicable coincidence. Another story from 2025. A girl met a stranger who was identical to her. Same height, name, nationality, and staying in the same dorm, same floor, next room, like the simulation copied a character. Or someone saw a gas station appear and disappear in just a day. These stories, from Reddit to X, suggest the matrix sometimes lags or glitches, especially when consciousness pays attention. Back to Juliana, an English girl who, after an accident 5 years ago, refused to eat anything. During that time, her parents kept trying to convince her, even taking her to tons of doctors, hoping she'd go back to normal eating, but nothing worked. Finally, with no other choice, her parents followed the doctor's advice and took her to a hypnosis expert to figure out why their daughter wouldn't eat. The result was, under hypnosis, Juliana said she believed there was no real food in this world that humans could use. She even kept asking, "Hasn't anyone noticed? The things in everyone's hands don't exist at all, so how can you call it food and eat it?" Through multiple hypnosis treatments, the experts successfully implanted a new subconscious thought in her brain, telling Juliana, "Things like food are delicious. Humans can't go without eating." And what makes people most curious is Juliana's words, like food isn't food, food doesn't exist. What does that really mean? This can't help but remind us of the movie The Matrix, where people in the virtual world live by direct nutrition to the body. So-called food isn't needed anymore. In medicine, hypnosis has been used to treat anorexia, like in cases where patients are reprogrammed to find food appealing, and some cases report quick remission. Erin Valenti grew up in Port Washington, New York, a smart person full of energy and tons of crazy ideas. She graduated with a business administration degree from Northeastern University. She was also a member of Mensa, an organization for high IQ people, and a volunteer for Not for Sale, a non-profit set up to fight human trafficking and modern slavery. Her husband, Harrison Watson, a psychologist, insists his wife had no history of mental illnesses, no hospital records, no drug use, never involved in legal stuff, a clean record at every sense. She was totally normal. However, after her death, conspiracy theories exploded. Some say she discovered a secret at the conference, maybe related to simulation tech, and got shut down. The couple had moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, where Erin founded Tinker Ventures, a tech company with over 120 experts. In 2019, Erin had a business trip to Orange County for a tech workshop, then to Silicon Valley to meet friends. From October 1st, 2019, Erin flew to Orange County, California for the event. Nancy Nape, Erin's mum, said her daughter was super excited telling her about the trip over the phone, and she was full of inspiration to start a new project back home. A few days later, she flew to Silicon Valley to meet old friends. And finally, on October 7th, Erin made some pretty unusual calls to her husband and mum. They said the way she talked was really strange. She spoke fast, used words oddly, and what she said didn't really make sense. Most notably, she told her mum, "It's all a game. This is an imaginary experiment. We're in a matrix." These words became the center of conspiracy theories, with many believing she woke up from the simulation. Erin also said she'd miss her flight home, and that her car was almost out of gas. Erin's husband, Harrison, and her mum took turns talking to her on the phone late into the night until she stopped answering and calls went straight to voicemail, and that was the last time they spoke to Erin. That night, Erin missed her flight home. She was last seen on the highway near the airport in San Jose. At the time, she was wearing a white t-shirt and ripped blue jeans. Her missing case was taken by the San Jose Police Department, and 5 days later, she was found dead in the back seat of her rented car in a residential area on Alum Rock Street. No signs of physical violence, and no traces of stimulants were found. This raised suspicions. Why was she in the back seat? Did she move there to hide from something? Or was this a glitch that rendered her body in the wrong spot? After getting those calls, Erin's family immediately went to the police station to report the search. The family gave info on her appearance, the car she was driving, including colour, make, and license plate. The police contacted her that same night, and they also noticed her communication was very abnormal. In the call, Erin called the operator and figured out where she was. The police used that info to search nearby areas, including hospitals, for hours, but came back empty-handed. They also tried using tracking tech to find the car's and phone's location, but no luck. This delay has been criticised, and some conspiracy theories say there was interference from the system to cover up, like in stories about awakened people being erased from the simulation. There's a regrettable fact here. Even though the police knew Erin might be in danger, they didn't do anything until October 10th, 2019, 3 days after Erin's last call. This happened because at the time, the police didn't prioritise Erin's missing case, simply because Erin was an adult, and maybe she decided to be alone for a few days. There are lots of cases where people voluntarily disappear for reasons like family abuse, life problems, etc. Even so, Erin was also a CEO of a pretty big tech company that's growing well. She was even about to receive an Outstanding Entrepreneur Award on October 12th that year. There's no reason for her to just disappear like that. After that, thanks to further investigation efforts, we learned that Erin's car had been parked there for 5 days, meaning after talking to her family on the phone, missing her flight home, Erin drove to a nearby residential area, moved to the back seat area of the car, passed away for some reason, and no one noticed for several days. The residents in the area, after learning about the incident, said they were really shocked because this had never happened here, and it was very strange that no one noticed the car, while this is a pretty small residential area. This suggests a glitch. Why didn't anyone see it? Maybe the Matrix only renders when needed, and her death was a system loophole that went unnoticed. With so many mysteries and questions still open, lots of conspiracy theories have been thrown out. Some say the tech event Erin attended had something shady, maybe related to secret simulation projects. Others say Erin's death is linked to an eco-terrorist group, meaning ETA, but actually no evidence. This terrorist group was also accused of being responsible for the death of another tech CEO named Philip Haney, but this accusation isn't verified, and there are no solid proofs for this organization's involvement. Some theories even link to the CIA or government, saying she knew too much about brain tech. By 2025, Erin's story is still discussed on forums, with some people believing she tried to escape but failed. The strangest detail of this story is one of Erin's last words, even though it's very odd, and I know some people might find it funny, but actually this topic has and is getting a lot of attention from many people, and there are scientists trying to prove it. Are we living in a simulation? I think you're no stranger to the Matrix movie series anymore. The Matrix is a philosophy about this world and everything in it being a computer simulation. The 1999 movie popularized this idea, with scenes of characters seeing falling green code, and by 2025, with The Matrix Resurrections, it continues to explore nested simulation layers, suggesting escaping one layer just leads to another. This hypothesis goes something like this. One day, human tech will advance so much that we can fully understand the human brain, understand it to the point where we can simulate it exactly. And with current code, there are already technologies that can read our brainwaves and simulate them in a virtual setup. For example, Elon Musk's company Neuralink is developing tech that can read the human mind. The company promises a future where machines can fully understand human thoughts, from ideas to movements. The tech will connect your nervous system to this technology and allow you to send signals through muscles on your body. It will receive to the point you don't even have to lift a finger to control it, because they'll be able to read our brainwaves. In 2025, Neuralink has hit the milestone of implanting 2 patients in one day, and Musk announced plans to integrate with Optimus robots, allowing control of robot bodies with thoughts, one step closer to creating our own perfect simulation. The first step to this tech will be a machine that lets you use brainwaves to control external devices with basic operations. And the next step will be a machine that reads your mind literally. Sounds pretty crazy, right? But it's definitely going to happen one day. This info, combined with Erin's last words and her death, has made many people believe she might have discovered some secret about our world being just a simulation, and she got shut down, pulled out the system. On forums like Reddit, people discuss her death as proof of simulation, with her words being a red pill moment. And according to what Elon Musk once said, unless humans go extinct in the future for some reason, it's almost certain we'll be able to simulate every human brain in this world, creating a simulation environment so real you can't tell the difference anymore. Or is that tech already created, and we, and the people listening to this podcast, are in a matrix? In 2025, with Neuralink advancing, Musk says we can achieve symbiosis with AI, making simulation even more feasible. Now we've explored deep into the evidence for the simulation hypothesis, from scientific experiments to chilling real-life stories. But as you asked, let's talk about an important part. Is there a way to escape the matrix? This is a question many philosophers, scientists, and even billionaires are trying to answer. Based on the latest studies and theories, like Roman Yampolsky's 2023 paper, How to Escape from the Simulation, we can explore some ideas. Note that this is just theory, not practical instructions, because if we're really in a simulation, escaping might be impossible or dangerous. But let's dive in together. First, according to the movie The Matrix, the simplest way is to take the red pill, a symbol for choosing to see the truth. In theory, this means awakening consciousness. Some proposed ways include 1. Meditation and inner awareness. Many believe that through deep meditation you can access higher consciousness layers, realizing the illusory nature of reality. For example, in Buddhist or yoga practices, achieving enlightenment could be like escaping the matrix. Some studies show meditation can change the brain, helping you hack perception. 2. Using psychedelics. Like DMT or LSD, some experiences are described as escaping the simulation, where users see the code of the universe or meet higher entities. In Yampolsky's paper, he mentions exploiting glitches, and psychedelics could be a way to find them. However, this is dangerous and not legal in many places. 3. Hacking with tech and AI. According to Yampolsky, treat the simulation like a computer program. We can jailbreak by using super smart AI to find vulnerabilities. Steps include reconnaissance, learning the type of simulation, overloading resources, creating nested simulations to cause stack overflow, social engineering, convincing the simulator by making yourself interesting or threatening them with hell simulations, and exploiting quantum mechanics, using entanglement or tunneling to escape. For example, creating von Neumann probes to spread and overload the system, or using quantum to create holes. 4. Making yourself interesting for simulator interaction. According to WikiHow, pursue new hobbies, achieve big goals to attract the simulation runner's attention, maybe they'll pull you out. Or, according to Medium's Plan A, convince the simulator with empathy or trade. However, there are ethical issues. Escaping could harm others in the simulation, or if the simulator is God, they might punish. Philosophically, if simulations are nested, escaping one layer just leads to another. Yampolsky emphasizes that escape is a convergent goal for intelligence, but we need to consider suffering and privacy. 2 billionaires once funded research to escape the simulation, showing this isn't just theory. In summary, there's no sure way, but through awareness, tech, or hacks, we can try. But maybe, living meaningfully in this matrix is the real key. If this world is virtual, then experiments, hypnosis, and deaths like Juliana's or Erin Valenti's are just software bugs. And the only question is, if you could choose, would you want to wake up? What do you guys think about this topic? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, then we can discuss more. Thanks for listening. If you like, you can subscribe to catch the next episodes. In the meantime, you can check out other videos on the channel. Bye, and see you later.